This is 9 News with Amelia Adams.
Good morning. A family beach outing has come to a tragic end with a mother dying after saving her son from a rip on the New South Wales north coast. Let's go straight to Tim Davies at Coffs Harbour. Tim, good morning. What more can you tell us?
Amelia, good morning to you. It was late afternoon here yesterday, around 20 to 6, when this family visiting from Britain entered the water here at Diggers Beach at Coffs Harbour. Now, this area is known for strong currents and rips, and unfortunately, it seems that's what caught this family off guard yesterday when they entered the water. The father and two boys managed to make it back to the shore safely, but this 49-year-old woman entered the water and tried to save her young son. She did pull him out, and both of them made it back here onto the beach, but unfortunately, it seems that she was so exhausted after the ordeal, being stuck in the water. She was several hundred metres out to sea by the time that she did manage to make it back in from that rip. Here's a little bit of what the ambulance spokesperson had to say just a short time ago.
By all accounts, the mother has gone in to try and help the children as well. All the children were out safe, but the mother got to shore, but unfortunately was exhausted by the end of it.
Utterly heartbreaking, with this woman's husband performing CPR on her here on the beach in front of their children. She was rushed and treated by paramedics who used a defibrillator. They took her to Coffs Harbour Hospital nearby in a critical condition, but unfortunately she did not make it and died a short time after arriving there at the hospital. It would seem that a report for the coroner is now being prepared, but this 49-year-old woman's death is not alone. A search continues for the body of a 14-year-old boy around 2 hours south from here at Coffs Harbour, down at Port Macquarie, after he went missing several days ago. Authorities say so soon into the Christmas holidays, with so many people heading to the waterside for a break, they really want to try and get that message out about safety by the water and people's abilities when they enter the water. Amelia? Yeah,
very, very sad indeed. Tim, thank you for the update. Well, there's been a refugee protest with a difference. Advocates blockading Melbourne's container port, calling for an end to the detention of refugees. Nine's Jonathan Kersley reports from the scene.
After a little more than 3 hours, the protest here at the Melbourne docks finally came to an end. The activists, angry over the Manus Island Detention Centre, decided to take action to try and close Melbourne's dock facilities less than a week out before Christmas. They say that they wanted to try and bring the profit that's coming into the docks to a halt to try and get their message across. But what this really did was anger those with inside the docks fraternity. A number of deliveries were not able to be made. The freight rail line accessing the transport hub was shut down while these protests, simultaneous protests across the city, took place. Eventually, one by one, they were brought up from the Sim Street Bridge here after the two protesters had been dangling for a little more than 2 hours. They were taken into police custody and then questioned, likely to be charged on summons. We spoke to one of them a short time ago, and here's what they had to say.
I think it's really horrific that Australian borders are open to everything, freight, transport, everything except people, and that's why we chose the ports today.
So there's certainly disruptions that we don't support, but we understand that these people do have a right to protest.
The activists who staged this protest have also taken similar action right across Melbourne and Australia over the course of the year. One of note was outside the Liberal Party headquarters in Melbourne CBD, where they blockaded the entrance for a number of hours. A number of the people on that occasion were charged on summons, and the activists here today say that they will continue to take action. They're not worried about any ramifications from the police or any criminal charges that could be laid. They say that no city building or landmark is off limits, and they will continue to make sure that they try and have their message heard. But the dock workers here today, they had one message: get off the land, and police wanted them in custody.
An 87-year-old woman has been taken to hospital after she was viciously attacked by a dog in Sydney's west. The woman was knocked to the ground and bitten on her hand and arm before a passerby intervened.
She was petrified. She was screaming when I got out of my car. I didn't even think. I just grabbed the dog. He didn't turn on me. I got him off.
The elderly woman was trying to defend her pet from a larger, unleashed dog. Well, there's a fresh boost for the Turnbull government ahead of Christmas, with the mid-year budget update forecasting a $23 billion drop in gross debt. Fiona Willan has been crunching the numbers for us in Canberra. Fee, good morning. What is behind this?
Amelia, well, it's due to the fact the government has collected more tax than expected, and that is partly because there are more workers paying tax, with more than 370,000 jobs created this year. It is also due to wage rises, pushing people into higher tax brackets. This puts the government in a position where it might be able to give some of that money back. In the future, that could come in the form of income tax cuts. The Treasurer is unveiling this budget update as we speak. This is what he had to say before the meeting.
As we're saying today and has already been reported, we have ensured that the debt that we expect at the end of the forward estimates to be $23 billion less, $40 billion over the next 10 years. That means lesser interest payments, which means we can continue to make progress on balancing the budget.
We are also expecting to see the Prime Minister reshuffle his cabinet very soon, perhaps in the next few days. We're hearing Attorney General George Brandis will be heading off to London to replace Alexander Downer as High Commissioner. And a short time ago, Deputy PM Barnaby Joyce was asked if he would be keen for a new portfolio.
Well, Prime Minister would be a good portfolio. No, it's and that's not going to happen because I'm in the National Party.
So a very cheeky response there from the Deputy PM, but a reshuffle will mean the PM gets to start the new year with a fresh energy and a fresh look, leaving behind what has been a really tough year. Amelia?
Yeah, he'll be pleased about that, I think. Fee, thank you. Sure. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews has expressed his shock over sexual harassment claims levelled against Melbourne Lord Mayor Robert Doyle. Councillor Tessa Sullivan resigned on Friday, alleging Mr Doyle grabbed her breast and made sexually explicit comments to her.
Yeah, look, these are very serious claims, and appropriately the council, through its CEO Ben Rimmer, has put a process in place, and I think the best thing for me to do is to respect that process.
Colleague Jackie Watts spoke on radio this morning saying it takes a brave woman to speak up. A 90-year-old Queensland man is in a serious condition this morning after being bashed and robbed in his home. Nine's Alex Bernhardt is in Bundaberg. Alex, do police know who carried out this attack?
Good morning to you, Amelia. Police have just held a press conference about 15 minutes ago, and unfortunately, some 3 days on, they still have very little to go by in this case. But what they have revealed is a little bit more information about just how brutal and callous attack this attack was on 90-year-old Doug Dilger. What we know is that he was home alone. His back door wasn't locked on Friday night when a masked man with a stocking over his face burst through the door. He was punched over the head several times, and then this man stole all of the money he could find in his house before taking off. This is obviously an attack that has really shocked this tight-knit community of Childers, about 3.5 hours north of Brisbane. It is a very small community with only about 1,500 people, and for that reason, things like this generally don't happen in those sorts of areas. Now, police, though, today tell us, as we said, that they don't have a great deal to go by, and as you're about to hear, they have a very limited description of the attacker.
We know it's a male offender, Caucasian, between about 30 and 40 years of age, and he may have had a foreign accent of unknown description at this stage. One thing that is apparent is from a witness and also Mr Dilger himself is that this male offender was wearing a skin-coloured stocking.
So, Amelia, police are really appealing for the public's help today. Mr Dilger remains in the intensive care unit here in Bundaberg, and there is a chance that if he is stabilised in the next couple of days, he will then be moved to Brisbane for more surgery.
All right, Alex Bernhardt, we will leave it there. Thank you. Overseas now, and the Pentagon has admitted to conducting a long-running secret program investigating UFOs. And for the first time, we've been given an insight into the real-life X-Files.
My gosh! An unidentified flying object. Spotted by 2 Navy fighter pilots flying high above the clouds.
Look at that thing. It's rotating.
These newly released videos from the Department of Defense, published by the New York Times and Washington Post, part of a once secret government program to investigate sightings of so-called anomalous aerial vehicles in the skies. It sounds like a plot out of the X-Files.
The truth is out there.
or something the men in black would zap from your memory.
Flash of light you saw in the sky was not a UFO.
But according to reports in the Washington Post and New York Times, the Department of Defense has spent at least $22 million since 2007 looking into UFO sightings. Former Nevada Senator Harry Reid, who helped secure the funding for the program, telling the New York Times, "I think it's one of the good things I did in my congressional service. I've done something that no one has done before." And now the Pentagon officially acknowledging its Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program for the first time, telling ABC News they ended the program in 2012 in favor of other higher priority issues that merited funding, but that the DoD takes seriously all threats and potential threats to our people, our assets, and our mission, and takes action whenever credible information is developed.
Stay with us. In the news ahead, specialised armed police officers on the streets of Sydney, a new move to combat terrorism. Also, international tourists flocking to Australia, but which state is falling behind? And Prince Harry calls in the big gun to help with his new job. We'll have the details for you after the break.